Segment 2, Gold and Black Live. Brian Neubert working away, thinking about the next thing, trying to formulate his next opinion. We have Kyle Charters, who has been patiently waiting on the phone. Is the game about to start yet?
Thanks for saying I've been patiently waiting.
Well, I don't know that I'm making that assumption. You're not the most patient of people. So, what?
We got about 20 minutes till tip. The Nebraska-Iowa game just ended. Probably in the slowest 10 minutes ever for what was a 20-point win. The last 10 minutes of that game for Nebraska, they look pretty good. They're going to be a tough team to beat tomorrow if Purdue. You can probably hear in the background walking by on their way out to the court. It's by Wisconsin here this afternoon.
You know, obviously, the Boilermakers beat Wisconsin in their only matchup. Wisconsin gets the 1-point win yesterday against Illinois. You know, the number 3 seed's been good to Purdue. Obviously, three Big Ten tournament championships. I think an 11-1 record at that seed. And yet, I'll be honest, at least, and I'm not watching every possession of Purdue women's basketball, but this is a team that doesn't seem to be going into this as full steam ahead.
No, Purdue was the 4th seed last year, and I think last year you had a better feeling that they had an opportunity to go to Indianapolis and win the thing. Now, granted, they were the 4th seed after being in a 3-way tie for 2nd place in the league, so maybe that had a little bit to do with it too, and that team was playing a little bit better at tournament time. But the way this Purdue team has sort of limped home in February, they had only won 2 of their 7 games. They had lost 5 of the 7 in the month of February before really probably playing their best game, all around, and, in a month plus against Illinois last Sunday. It made them feel a little bit better about their chances, but if you had to handicap Purdue, I'm not sure really how you do it because you don't know on a day in or day out basis what you're going to get. And I think that's been the most frustrating thing about a team that starts 2 seniors and 3 juniors. You just feel like maybe they shouldn't be so up and down.
Well, and we're going to switch gears a little bit to football, and Brian was allowed to participate at 6 a.m. this morning and is just getting out of the shower now. But you guys both have been, and obviously, Kyle, you weren't there today, but let's talk. I'll ask Brian first about the impressions of what you saw this morning and out of Daryl Hazel's crew. And you know that this football team probably wasn't out running around too late last night if they were going to be doing the 6 a.m.s.
Right. Well, I guess first and foremost, my first impression was I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I've been allowed to cover this. I mean, wait. So you really mean I can take a photo of that? I can watch that? Really? I'm standing there waiting for the little red dot to show up in my chest.
Yeah.
No. In all seriousness, no, it certainly seems like this was a productive set of winter workouts for Purdue. They all talked about how much harder it was than in the past. One distinction we should probably draw is that 6 a.m. workouts are not Daryl Hazel inventing the wheel here. I mean, this is something every school does. This is something Purdue's done as far back as I can remember. Back in the 90s, obviously Joe Tiller did this as well. The difference this year is that by every account, they've been much, much more difficult, much, much more punishing, maybe for lack of a better term. I think Daryl Hazel's obviously really intent on building a standard. He obviously wants to test these guys now to see what they're made of, kind of toughen them up now so that when, the practices later, the games later maybe are a little bit easier. Put them through some pain now to toughen them up later, that kind of thing. Today, I don't know if I actually saw all the actual carnage because today was supposed to be the fun day. All they did was run sprints around Monkoff. All they did was run sprints around Monkoff and throw medicine balls around. So if that sounds like fun, then it was a lot of fun. But no, but certainly it seems like this was very productive.
And Kyle, obviously late yesterday afternoon, you got an opportunity to interview John Shoop and Purdue's new offensive coordinator. And what did you hear from him? And what are your impressions? Obviously, the Boilermaker football team will be off on spring break next week before opening spring practice on the 19th of March. But first, your impressions of Shoop, but then also just your general impressions of where things are.
Well, I talked to him for about 15 minutes, just mainly about what sort of things they wanted to be able to accomplish in the spring. And his first goal, I think, is to see how physical Purdue is and to make them a more physical team. They want to be physical up front, be able to run the football, and do things in a West Coast style off of that, play action passing game. I asked him too because I know a lot of people are interested. whenever people these days hear about a West Coast offense and hear about a physical running game, they get a little edgy. They get I don't know what the word would be, but about how much vertical passing game is going to be involved in that. I know here in recent years in particular, Purdue has had a major problem with trying to throw the ball downfield, not only 50 yards downfield, but 20 yards downfield. And I asked Shoop about that, whether his offense includes a vertical passing game, and his response was, I think any coach would tell you that they want to have a vertical passing game, and we are no different. We want to be able to get the ball down the field. So, they're gonna. It sounds like what they want to do is be a physical team up front, be able to run the ball. He has said repeatedly that he wants his quarterback to be a facilitator for the offense, and it sounds like high percentage underneath throws, but I think, talking to him, he wants to be able to take some shots, getting the ball down the field also.
Brian, and I know that Stacy, I think, was what to talk to Austin Appleby this week, and obviously to Rob Henry too. But any feeling how that all is going to play out? This is going to be an important spring practice certainly for Purdue, and the fact that you got to find a quarterback that you think you can go into that first game at Cincinnati with some confidence in.
Yeah, obviously they have a new coach story is kind of played out now for the most part. So now it becomes, hey, who's the quarterback? So now we get to start up a quarterback controversy or quarterback conversation, however you want to put it. I think it's obviously going to be very, very interesting to see how Austin Appleby does this spring. I don't think you anoint anyone right now. You got to let these guys practice first. But I just think the style of offense Purdue seems to want to run with this more West Coast pro style sort of thing, where you obviously want to run the ball and then take your shots when you have the opportunity to. I think that would seem to fit right into Austin Appleby's skill set. He's a very cognitively advanced kid. He's very invested. He will prepare himself until he's blue in the face. Not to say Rob Henry's not the same way. I think skill set wise, Rob Henry might not be as ideal a fit for this style of offense. Obviously, you love his experience. You love his athleticism. He's got a lot of redeeming qualities as a football player. Make no mistake. I just think that from a skill set standpoint, Austin Appleby seems like a pretty good fit for what they want to do, and he'll be advanced for a freshman in terms of how ready he is probably. Plus, there's probably some value added also in terms of Rob Henry. If he's not the quarterback, you can use him in other capacities because he might be your best athlete.
Yeah. Kyle?
It is refreshing, too, to ask coaches at Purdue about the quarterback situation and not have them be completely perplexed about why we're asking about it and wondering why we're not asking about the left guard competition or what have you. I mean, I asked John Shoop about it yesterday if that would be, one of the big priorities is figuring out who your quarterback's going to be, and he said, absolutely, you got to find out who the guy is. I tried to ask him, whether he thought that they would have somebody by the end of spring, whether he thought Carroll Hagel & Company would name the guy, and he said, well, that would be, he'd said, the players make the decision. So if somebody separates himself by that point, then he will be the guy. But he didn't want to paint himself into a corner either and say, we're going to have somebody by August 13th or whatever the day is there and name him the starter. It sounds like it'll just happen on the field and they'll choose the best guy they think for the job. He said that's the best guy in the meeting room, the best guy in practice, the best guy throwing the football, the best guy running the offense is going to get the job, and then we'll just have to wait and see who that is. All
right. Well, we're going to let you go back, do your next job, and obviously the Boilermakers and Wisconsin tip how far away now?
I'm not near the floor because I can't hear if I go out there, but I'm guessing we're about 10 minutes away.
All right, sounds good, and we'll look forward to seeing that. And obviously on the site next week we'll be talking a lot of spring football prep as well. So, all right, we're going to take. I wanted to ask Brian one question that has been on our site here. We have not taken. We've got a bunch of questions, and I haven't taken it yet. We had a question from Steve talking about switching gears to basketball. A lot made on the Italy trip. Not a lot made. Usually, it seems like teams that go on foreign trips. I don't know if there's any data to support this, but have always seemed to do better during the course of the season. Maybe not been the case with Purdue this year. did Purdue's trip to Italy hurt the Boilermakers more than help? And is there any way of making any real astute analysis based on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what reason we'd have to think it hurt them, as opposed to maybe they would have been even worse to start the season had they not gone on the trip. Obviously, you got all those extra practices in. If you hadn't gotten those practices in, who knows what you would have seen early in the year. You know, they did win that game over Hofstra as part of their 1-4 start, but perhaps they would have lost more games after New York had they not gotten that time in. You know, we just don't know. I just don't see any reason to think it hurt them. The only way something like that maybe could hurt you is if you go over there and you beat up on everybody, and then you gain some false confidence, and you think that, you know, the college game is easy, that it's always going to be like this, so on and so forth. But Purdue lost the game over there too.
Yeah.
And at the time, that seemed like a pretty good thing for Purdue, that, you know, they didn't go over there and just beat up on everybody.
Yeah, and there was no, at least as I recall too, not a lot of, they weren't trying to hide the fact that the level of competition in the 3 wins that Purdue had over there was somewhat suspect. So, you know, I still think that with this basketball team, it is a process, and some fans don't want to hear this, but it takes time, and we've seen that this year, and we may see some of that next year as this program continues to evolve with this group of players. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break. We'll come back with Tom Dienhart from the Big Ten Network. Stay tuned on Gold and Black Live.